officially calling the meeting to order at 4:04 p.m. And we're going to begin with roll call. So we'll start with Craig Pepper.
Absent.
Dave Brennan. Absent. Mark Tannenbaum.
Present.
I'm present. Jeff.
I'm present.
And our ex officio members, we have Jason Wazorek.
Present.
And Chris Kinder.
Present.
Fantastic. So we'll start with the approval of the minutes from our March meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes of the meeting.
Do we have a second? I guess
I wrote them, you should second it.
I was going to say, I second. Any further discussion? Nope. All in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Are they opposed? Okay, minutes pass. We have our public comments period next. Do we have anyone online? No? Okay, so we have no one here to present. So moving on then to old business. Chris, would you like to give us an update on the proposals that have been received from various consultants wanting to work with the city to develop the historic preservation plan?
Yes, so our deadline was March 11th. On that date, we received, that date and before, we received a total of 5 proposal submissions. We have since kind of narrowed down our top 3 that we would like to interview a little further. And this was, the choice, the top 3 were kind of unanimous, maybe not in the same order, but pretty unanimous on who we wanted to interview. The first one is Lakota Group, which is out of Chicago, Illinois. We thought that their submission was very professional, extensive experience creating historic preservation plans. Their team has extensive experience in different areas, so we liked their team approach, and they addressed most of the factors in the request for proposal, including some commentary and discussion on underrepresented communities. The other one is Heritage Strategies out of Bertrandville, Pennsylvania. Again, very professional submission, extensive experience creating historic preservation plans, familiar with Erie and Pennsylvania. Some of the team even worked with Preserve Erie and Erie County doing that survey, and they also have a team with extensive experience. The third one that we would like to interview is the Walker Collaborative, which is a conglomeration of different consulting firms, 2 of which are out of Nashville, Tennessee, one of which Phil Thomason and Associates I've got experience with. I know them fairly well, and part of their group is also out of Pittsburgh. Again, professional submission, extensive experience. I mean, I think of all of those, they probably have the most experience. Some familiarity with Erie and Northwest Pennsylvania, and a very detailed proposal. So those are the 3 groups that we are going to be interviewing. I would like to hear, I didn't get feedback from all members, so if somebody has a comment or suggestion that they would like to talk about any of those proposals, including the 2 we did not choose, I'm happy to hear those. And also, before I forget, I would like to, before everybody leaves tonight, give me some times. If you would like to participate in the interviews, please give me some times that you're available from anywhere from this Thursday through next week, so that we can begin making these, begin scheduling these interviews.
Okay. Does anyone have anything to add or any questions about the 3 firms that have been recommended to move forward to the next review process or review phase?
Melinda, I'm not on the commission, but I just did a cursory read through of everything, but I wanted to really thank Kathy and Chris and the commission for, moving forward on this. And you learn something every time you do something like this, but I just want to refer to when the city was looking for a financial consultant. We did something this is a similar process. We had proposals, I think we had 3, and then I think we interviewed all 3, didn't we, Kathy?
correct.
And it was a really good process to have what they want to do and then those actual interviews. And plus, of course, as I was looking through these, I was like, oh, wait a minute, I've been to that city, I've been to that city. Ooh, okay, I know what I would have taken away from having visited those cities without knowing that these planners were involved in that. So I just wanted to say thank you for a good process, because we're getting somewhere after, as Melinda would know from, our other hats on Preservation Erie, there's real progress being made here. So thanks to everybody on the commission. Thank you for eliciting good proposals. And again, I'm not an expert, but I would have lined up probably the same way. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Okay, if we don't have anything else, we can move on to the next item on the agenda, because again, that does not need any formal vote, right? That was simply a report. So moving on to the next, so this is one of those weird moments where I'm going to be wearing a couple of hats. So under new business, the first item, we do have a proposal here, or at least something to look at, I should say. I shouldn't refer to it as a proposal. So Preservation Erie did receive some funding to create a historic marker program, which that entity has done. At least 3, if not 4 markers have been created and installed in other areas of the county. And so these are the first ones proposed for locations in the city of Erie. So you'll see that included in the proposal in front of you is a rendering of what the marker looks like. Disregard the language on the example, but this is what it looks like. It is actually modeled after the statewide historic marker program, which is the Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission's marker program. This is what they would refer to as a street marker. They have 2 sizes. They have a street marker, which is smaller in size and more appropriate for densely packed spaces, and then they have a larger marker, which is more common for highways and open spaces. So this is modeled after the street marker, and we have 2 different signs that are proposed. One is Wayne School. This is in partnership with the Erie Center for Art and Technology, and what they really wanted to do was kind of celebrate the history of Wayne School. We know that building is an anchor building for that neighborhood. Thousands of children have walked its halls. Thousands of teachers have taught there, or hundreds of teachers, maybe not thousands of teachers, but it's an important building for that neighborhood. And so as the Erie Center for Art and Technology breathes new life into that building, they wanted to acknowledge the decades of history. And so Preservation Erie has worked with the Erie Center for Art and Technology staff to come up with this draft of verbiage, of text for the historic marker. And then the second one is proposed for kind of the edge of the main street for the city of Erie, because it leads into a neighborhood. And so this is acknowledging Jerusalem. Jerusalem was Erie's first African-American neighborhood. And so the neighborhood itself began in the 1820s. It offered lots for not just those who were seeking freedom on the Underground Railroad, but for permanent residents. And so this really did become the first African-American neighborhood. It had several key businesses. It still is home to, we have the MLK Center there. This is just an important neighborhood for the city. And so, oh yes, I can't forget the home field of the Pontiac baseball team. So in any case, these are the two markers that Preservation Erie is currently working on. The second marker, the Jerusalem marker, is in partnership with the Burley Legacy Alliance and our West Bayfront. And we do intend to reach out to also the Erie Downtown Partnership and the Erie Downtown Development Corporation, because this will be kind of, it overlaps almost all three of those entities, the nonprofits that are working in that area. So in any case, again, this is kind of an odd one where Preservation Erie is actually providing this. So I am not going to vote, but I will say that we do indeed want the Historic Review Commission to take a look at the text. We would love to have a letter of support from the HRC, and obviously I cannot vote and or make the motion for that. So
Unfortunately, that's only two of us that can vote on it. Yeah, well, we have a quorum, but not enough for voting if you abstain, right?
So you love them.
I love them. I didn't know they canceled me out.
Well, here comes a third vote walking through the door. Well, maybe she's going to make it.
You know, we have a relationship. It's a positive one. Before it, obviously, but I didn't know if it
Well, do you, okay.
we provide free space.
I think I'm not an attorney, nor will I play one, but I believe all you have to do is say what your relationship is, and if you believe that there is no conflict of interest, you can make an abridged. Yeah, I think that would be fine, unless Jason, you have another opinion, or Liz, since we don't have a.
I've asked
I thought it
about
was just
those
no
questions
financial
in
gain or
different
personal
places,
gain.
too.
Right.
Yeah. Right. I have a quick question. What color?
So we haven't yet chosen a color.
Because I would discourage those brown ones that exist. The kind of, they just look dated, like the blue ones, the navy ones.
The colors for the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission marker program, it's a navy blue with yellow lettering.
Yeah.
And so we will avoid that color scheme.
There.
Yeah. So some of the other markers in the city, because we have looked at other markers in the city, there are a number that are black with white lettering. There are a number with white background and black lettering. There are also a number with a white background and navy blue lettering. So those are some of the potential, but those are some of the color schemes that you'll see in the existing historic markers around the community. But honestly, the company that we work with provides a full color palette from which to choose.
And then just a minor clarification. All my conversations with Candace Battles over the years, she's always referred to it as New Jerusalem. I don't know if that's...
So both are accepted.
Okay.
Jerusalem and New Jerusalem are both accepted titles.
And this is the exact wording that's going on the plaque.
This is the exact wording that is, yes, proposed.
Melinda, maybe you mentioned this when you first started talking and I missed it, but does this get sent to, is this approved by the State Historic Preservation Office, or does it flow through?
It is not.
So it's just a local?
It's a local marker.
Initiative. And you don't have a standard design that you work from, like a palette, or you do?
So because this marker program is being implemented countywide, what we've done is we've kept the shape of the marker uniform. So what varies from community to community is the graphic. You'll see at the top of the marker, there is kind of a bump out. And so that center area there at the top, there is space for a graphic. And then the color is typically chosen by the community. So for instance, we worked with Lawrence Park to put, actually this marker that we're using as the example, to mark the Lawrence Park Historic District. At the top of that marker, they chose the township logo or seal. Actually, logo. It is not the seal of the township, the logo. And the colors are the colors of their logo and or their website. So it's the color palette that municipality has chosen as kind of their color palette for most of the municipal work. So it's a blue with a white lettering. In Union City, they took a different path. The graphics at the top of the historic marker in Union City reflect the history that's being told. So for instance, in Union City, one of the markers talks about their chair manufacturing legacy, and the logo or image at the top is a wooden chair. And the colors that they chose, Union City is very much attached to, I think, burgundy right now, and so they chose burgundy for the color with white lettering.
And then how do you select the projects that you would support for placement of a marker? Do they have to have National Register status? Do they?
No, and actually, one of the benefits of this program, or one of the reasons why we developed this program, was to acknowledge local history that may or may not qualify for either the State Historic Marker Program or even National Register.
It could, it just doesn't, it's not required.
It's not required. So Wayne School may or may not qualify, right, as a property eligible for listing on the National Register, but it does have it is significant locally because of its place in the community.
Okay.
And you'll notice that the history does acknowledge the school building itself. It was important for those that were working on this marker to not necessarily focus on the name, Wayne, and General Anthony Wayne. He has received much recognition elsewhere in the community. This marker is acknowledging this historic school building.
I see. Okay, thank you for that.
Did they approach you, Melinda? Or did you?
Actually, for Wayne School, yes, they approached me. And for Jerusalem, I approached them.
And I know you're not asking for funding, but how much do these typically cost?
So this size, we're looking at about $1,200 to $1,300.
And then is this a 50-50 match kind
Yeah,
of?
so the way this is structured, Preservation Erie is providing 50% of the cost through the grant funding that we have, and the partner is providing the match requirement from a different funding source.
Okay, I see.
But yeah, this program, we've had, it's been a mix of people calling up and wanting, we actually have one or two others that reached out and wanted to talk about historic markers, but we may or may not have the funds available to do the other historic markers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the State Historic Marker Program is indeed a phenomenal marker program, right? There are quite a few Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission markers across the Commonwealth and quite a few in Erie County. But the challenge is oftentimes meeting that not all history meets the state's significance, which is what that program is designed to acknowledge. People, places, events, right, that have significance to the entire Commonwealth. So, any other questions?
Melinda, do you think that once these are... How about if I yell?
Yelling is
Is that
fine.
okay? They're all, geez. Anyhow, do you think that once these are done, or maybe I ask Chris or Kathy, will this be in like part of a database where we know where like the preservation area markers are and the state markers are, and there might be, I just think it'd be cool or useful to be able to say, if you're on a marker hunt, this is where you find them, and I don't know how we do that, but maybe our role would be city Veery kind of stuff, but.
That sounds like something, though, that would be, that would definitely be woven into the citywide historic preservation plan as a
Okay.
recommended activity.
Yes.
Mapping the historic assets.
Okay, and I'm asking for a specific reason also, because we have some additional requests to do my favorite thing, which is to designate, I'm kind of being a little sarcastic here, but designate streets with honorary names, and we keep getting requests for that, but we don't have a thing that says not only which streets have these honorary designations, but what do we know about the people? So yes, thank you. You answered my question. Thank you. I should have known that that's where it would come up, but thank you.
Well, that's just one possibility, right? That'd be something that'd be an output of that planning process, a recommendation of that planning process. But in addition to, so the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission markers, you can actually find the full list of PHMC markers on the PHMC's website, and you can search by county. So you can sort just the markers for Erie County. Just to plug that program, in an interesting twist, they actually have funding this year to support the cost of fabricating markers. So for those of us that have been submitting marker nominations to the State Historic, or to the Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission, it's actually the State Historic Preservation Office that works with the program. In the most recent past, they have had no funding for fabrication. So the entity that nominates a marker also has to pay for it, all of it. This is the first year that they actually have funding.
Easy. When we got on there, we had to buy a bronze spot. It was expensive.
How much was it?
I think it's $600. I mean, it was.
Oh, 100, yeah.
But yours is the National Register plaque, right?
But they didn't allow it. But they allowed us to get it.
Oh, okay. Well, again, I am rendered speechless. So. Yes, quite frankly, we're just asking for a letter of support to be able to move forward the project. I don't think that anything else is needed. We did the Erie Center for Art and Technology. I think that they have a crew that is going to be doing the installation. We do have to kind of still figure out the installation piece of the Jerusalem marker, but I think we can do that. And which firm or which entity we get to actually do the installation. So depending on the location, we have scoped out some locations that are would be private property, but we're certainly open to having a conversation with the city as well. If there are any locations that are looked at that would be part of the city's right-of-way or city-owned property.
You know, isn't there a cute little park that's there, like on 4th Street, 5th Street? Like a corner park?
At Wayne or
No, I
Jerusalem?
mean the Jerusalem Park, you know, between 5th and between Sassafras and Plum, between, there's like a little park.
So because we just need to, because of the funding source, it needs to stay as close to Peach and Sass as possible. It needs to remain in that main street, kind of the main street corridor of downtown. Otherwise, there are some really great parks that this sign would fit very well into, but in any case, I don't want to go into too many details, right? I don't want to speculate, but there are some locations where, again, if the private property doesn't work out, we may come back to the city to ask if there would be an opportunity to put this in a public right-of-way space.
You know, Candy took that one building down on the corner of Sass and Fifth. Is it the big church?
The old church, yeah.
Indian or Coliseum, isn't it?
Josephinian.
Josephinian,
Yeah.
And they,
Josephine.
I don't think there's anyone in that.
Thank you for that.
So Chris, will you last time get a motion to support a letter of recommendation that we did?
Yeah, motion and then second.
So I'll make a motion to support these two plans.
Second. Aha.
Opposed?
You vote.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the only other questions we may want to ask within the city is whether or not this needs to be reviewed. Is it a signage permit or?
We would just send it to the zoning officer for interpretation. This isn't really you're not advertising a business. So I don't think, like, from the signage area standpoint, we have to get a permit. If it's on public-owned property, right-of-way or parks, then there'll be a different kind of review process, but it's not complicated. You probably did that with the bike racks. I don't know how complicated that was for you. Usually it's an easement if it's in a public right-of-way,
Okay.
or similar, but parks are usually a little bit more open.
Okay.
We just go through Public Works.
Sounds good. Wonderful. So then, back on track, our last item under new business. Chris, is your report?
All right. So we have a few things to kind of talk about in my report. So I wanted to give everybody an update on kind of the historic overlay district process, the meetings we've had. We've had a few this month. With West 6th Street, we've had 2 meetings, or meetings concerning the potential West 6th Street district. March 24th, myself and Melinda and Kathy met on Zoom with the OWB Infrastructure and Development Committee and talked a little bit about the Historic Preservation Program and the Historic Overlay District process. And then on March 28th, I think everybody was here at that meeting with the residents and owners at Garden Court to discuss the potential district.
Chris, you said the 21st you met with...
On the 24th, we met with our West Bayfront Infrastructure and Development Committee. It was a Zoom meeting.
And actually, Jason was there as well.
Yes, Jason was there. That's right. I forget. He was part of the committee. So, Infrastructure and Development.
And on the 21st was the meeting with the residents.
On the 28th, yes.
And you didn't say anything about West 21st.
No, I'm getting there. That's my next one. Yes, we did have a meeting, a Zoom meeting concerning a potential West 21st Street Historic Overlay District. That was with Heather Casper, with Sisters of St. Joseph, and a couple other residents and owners in that district, which would be a much, much smaller district than a potential West 6th Street district. That was just a preliminary discussion, and we're going to be following up with them probably in the next few weeks to see if we want to push that further. I don't have it on my book right here. I can't remember off the top of my head what date that meeting was. I think you were on the call as well, Melinda, but I don't remember the date.
And I'm sorry, I was actually checking my...
I'm wanting to say it was the 18th, but don't quote me on that.
Which meeting was this?
Yeah,
Chris?
The one with
Sisters of St. Joseph.
Heather and others about 21st Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the week before the OWB meeting. So, and then on the 14th, I met with our fellow member Mark Tannenbaum concerning PACA. Got a great tour of the PACA buildings. We're doing great work there, of course. And he has expressed interest in having the PACA buildings locally designated. And then on March 15th, PACA's board voted unanimously to pursue local designation. So I have that letter if you would like to review it. And the only thing in terms of process that we would have to do is now we've had the preliminary meeting, pre-application meeting. We would then pursue creating an application, finishing an application, and then we would have to arrange a public meeting to discuss that application about designating PACA. And there's some other things to discuss about boundaries and things like that that we need to figure out. But PACA is very much interested. If Mark wants to, he can kind of speak to that. However, he would not be able to vote because he's the director. So
But I can advocate.
he can advocate all he wants, and he has advocated strongly. So
That's great.
We do have 3 potential districts that we are at least in discussions about. Some are a little closer to making application than others. So I think that part is well underway. That is it with the districts.
For
Yes.
Jeff's notes, the meeting with, on West 21st Street Historic District with Sisters of St. Joseph was March 11th at 3 p.m.
Yes, I was off too. And then this week I'll be submitting our quarterly reports for the Keystone Preservation and CLG grants. We have a lot to report to about the Keystone Planning Grant. I wanted to wait till after this meeting so I could talk about our 3 selections and hopefully the interview process. We also will have, we're getting underway with the Camp Corps training through the National Alliance for Preservation Commissions. That training will be for our city. It'll be in September. We don't have the dates finalized just yet. And then by next meeting, we should have some sort of agreement concerning that training. But that'll take place in September, and it'll be kind of what they call the Camp Core, which is the basics. We've talked about it in our last couple meetings, but it'll be kind of the basics of preservation law. There'll be some hands-on workshops, things like that. And it'll be, if it's in person, it'll be a one-day event. We'll also have some hybrid options available as well. That meeting or that training session will be by invite. We can, the cost covers up to 30 attendees. If you wanted more, it was like $25 a person, something of that nature. So, but I'll have more details probably next month as we shore up the dates and like that. And then I wanted to update everybody a second time on the National Alliance for Preservation Commission's conference, the forum conference that is being held in July 13th to the 17th. I kind of sent out an email today saying that the scholarship funding wasn't as much as we thought, but then I was corrected again, and it is actually, we are able to apply for up to $2,000 per person for who wants to go. It's a reimbursable grant, so it would be the cost would be reimbursed to the city for for that conference. I have had one person say they would like to attend. We would like to send a couple more if possible. I'll be going, and then one other member has spoke up wanting to go. I just need to know who would like to attend, and it's pretty firm that they would be able to go, so I can apply for the scholarship grants as soon as possible.
It's the 13th to the 17th.
13th through the 17th, and it's in
Cincinnati.
In Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. And these conferences are held every 2 years, so it's a biannual conference. And from what I've heard from many people, it is a very, very good conference. And the preliminary program had some great programs and sessions that I think we could all learn from, especially so. So if you would like to attend, please let me know, hopefully this evening, and so I can get that application process underway and get registered. Also, if you haven't yet, you would like to participate in the interviews with the consultants, the final 3 consultants, please see me afterwards so I can get the times and dates that you're available within the next week, so we can go ahead and schedule those interviews.
Do you want to know times we're available next week?
Yes. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Chris. Well, great report. Are there any other, before we adjourn? Oh,
The first one is, a week ago, we all went to a meeting with the residents there in Garden Court. And somehow we need to capture what was said there, or at least the tenor of the meeting. Somehow, after we do so many of these things, we're going to forget what happened in the five before that. I think we need to capture that before it gets any further out of our mind. Just so we get the sense, I think Kathy said it best, that when you have written documentation, then it's easy to go back and say, yes, these people are in favor. If we go back and we talk to them again, we can see that, more people are in favor. Somehow we need to capture that. My biggest takeaway from that meeting was there were 13 residents there, and only 5 of them spoke. So to me, that says the other 8 are they're not sure, it's new to them. So again, somehow after we go through a lot of these things, we get a lot of feedback. We need a way to go back and look and see what was there.
Yeah, and some of the people that were quiet after the meeting came up and said how they thought it was important and they were interested. You know what I mean? Like they.
Yeah, but I think it was a lot of it was new to them, right?
Yeah.
Hearing about it for the first time, and they just didn't want to ask us on the door because they're afraid of asking dumb questions, or they just don't want to speak at the meeting. But again, if we go back and the next time there's 20 people there and 19 of them are in favor, then we can see that we're making progress. So that's one thing. And,
I was going to say, Jeff, along those lines, because it's not an official meeting, even though we technically had a quorum, it's okay to meet for informational purposes only and to share, to listen and be part of the conversation. So Chris, it would probably be helpful if you just summarize the meetings that you've had, our West Bayfront, the 3 that we've had so far, and just sort of summarize the number of attendees and the general conversation without giving specifics about number of people who spoke in favor. We don't want it to be interpreted as some sort of formal meeting, because it certainly wasn't. And I agree, Craig, with what you said, that it seemed like after the presentation, for lack of a better term, there was a lot of people who appreciated, if nothing else, getting what they thought was accurate and clear information about what this was and what it wasn't. But it was certainly clear from a number of people that they weren't there to take a vote. They didn't want to necessarily support or not support it officially yet. They just wanted to learn more. And that's what those meetings are about, is to have an open dialogue so people can learn more about what this process will look like and the benefits of it. So I think a summary as we move forward from Chris as a report would be sufficient, and it not be construed as any sort of formal
Definitely.
meeting.
And like Kathy said, those meetings like that, we were technically invited to participate in the Garden Court meeting, as well with the OWB, Development and Infrastructure Community. So we were invited to those, so we wouldn't necessarily by law have to record those proceedings. I could do short summaries and things like that. But I know, like we've talked about another public meeting that we would host concerning the West 6th Street before and after the application, and those would be recorded because they would be an official meeting of the HRC. So those would be recorded, and all the comments would be recorded, things of that nature. The other ones, I don't know how far we can go in terms of recording the meeting if we're not hosting it.
Yeah, I was thinking 2 ways to do that. Either the day after the meeting, get on the Zoom call and just throw out their ideas.
Sure.
Or I could put together a very short summary that just says, how many people were there and spoke, was the meeting. I think everybody that was there came away with their own impression of what the meeting was like. So there's
Sure.
no right answer.
Sure.
But again, if we have 50 of these in the next 2 years, I don't remember who said what, when, and what
Yeah, and
trend is.
right, and especially if they're ones that where we're invited to come and present. The ones that we host will certainly be recorded for posterity's sake. transparency's sake. So, yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I could definitely begin doing short summaries after each meeting we have.
So from now on, any of these, those are kind of official meetings, those are working meetings, right?
Yeah.
That you'll write a summary.
I'll do a short summary, yeah.
A short summary.
Well, and perhaps the report that you give to HRC every month would include a report out of those meetings that you have.
Sure,
So that way
absolutely.
you've already got it documented and shared with the HRC.
Absolutely.
In a pretty efficient manner.
The second thing is, again, publicizing the work of the HRC board. I think a lot of people at that meeting, you guys had a very good presentation on the city's doing, and I think you said it too, that, you know, not only is the city identifying areas that are, that should be preserved, the city's providing funding for it, too, right? Which is, you know, it's a good story that we have to get out there. We're giving away money.
Mhm.
Who isn't interested in that, right? So just we need to be, well, of letting people know what's available and what these things are. I was concerned with what happened that we didn't get out in front of it. I think you said it first, but we learned from when we do, every time we do something, I was concerned that people would start getting a bad idea. We've heard a little bit of that at least. I just don't want the citywide survey of historic buildings to be that same, like,
Sure.
well, they're coming in to take our property rights away. You know, you just have to get the message out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Melinda, I was going to suggest, I think, in following up to Jeff's suggestion, as you interview the consultants, that would be a good way to ask. I noticed a lot of them talked about public engagement, but I think communication, I keep stressing, as we come out of the pandemic, is so important. It's been so hard to keep up with everything. So I think that there are opportunities to find out the best practices from those consultants, and then to figure out how any of you with like such jam schedules can put more into your schedule. But since I did attend, when I do my committee report at council on Wednesday, I can let people know when the HRC meets, because I think there's some other stuff going on that people might want to be able to, if they can't attend in person, they can watch on Zoom, and we can all take ownership of having to spread the word that the commission exists, because I think this is a great role model for other types of topical issues that city council could be tackling or should be tackling. So I think there's a, you know, you're doing something that a couple of years ago we would have been, well, how do we start? Where do we start? And we started with a task force and we got to a commission. So I think there are other important issues where we could do something similar. So this can be a model.
We always need to be aware of our perspective. In my job at GE, I spent a lot of time explaining stuff to people. When you know it so well yourself, you just assume everybody you're talking
Yep.
to knows what you're talking about. But they don't, right? And I'm concerned that everybody in this room, maybe except for me, has been involved in historic preservation. It's all learning, it's all stuff learning to me about it. And I know the residents out there are kind of in my same boat. I need to hear about it and start to understand it.
Sure.
Or otherwise, people go on maybe they can object to it, they don't understand what's going on.
Sure.
So, you have to be very
Agreed.
Because their perception becomes the reality.
in today's world, I know people say that you don't get out in front of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
We tell our good story first.
Should we incorporate like a news story with the newspaper or the TV and stuff like that? I don't know, you know, like it's not, we've almost got to the point where we have a great story.
Well, and I
I'm not sure
agree
that's the
with
right way to
that.
go.
I'd love to have the regulations, the guidance for that
Right.
being in place first,
Mhm.
before we started really promoting that. And I know it needs to go hand in hand with the local designations that we're trying to advance as well, so.
When will that process be done of determining where it is?
I think
That's a
there-
good question.
I think-
The redevelopment authority just got the contract signed last week, or before maybe. it took a while, so they just got the contract that the city signed for the ARP funding, so that should be coming to them. They wanted to wait to get that in place before they developed the guidance, because you never quite know what's going to happen until you actually have the contract in place. So it'll, in all these programs, I'm going to give the City Redevelopment Authority a sort of a wide berth on development of these, because all of the programs that they're developing with the total, well, eventually it'll be $15 million, just over, are new. So they, primarily, demolition wouldn't be a new program, but they've got a lot of work ahead of them. So Aaron, we'll know more. There's a meeting Thursday with their neighborhood nonprofit group to help advise on the specifics of what they'd like to see out of those programs. Not historic preservation related, everything else. So I'll know a little bit more about the timeline after Thursday, working with Aaron Smith.
Sure. It's a great story.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of media attention with that plan.
We got one waiting, wanting to do it. Don't have to convince them at all.
Melinda, I have one more comment. Thank you for pointing me to the PHMC website, and it's very easy to search for those historic markers, and so you can do a search by Erie County, but there are 3 historic markers from the city of Erie that are missing. There's a number that are missing in Erie County, but specifically, I think that we ought to find out what happened to the Otto Mayo historic marker from 10th Street. He was a famous bicyclist who competed at Madison Square Garden. What happened to the USS Wolverine marker, especially now that the trees have been chopped down at Wolverine Park, which I think wasn't supposed to happen, or at least we were told it wasn't going to happen. And then, this one I never knew about, Route 20 and Knoll Avenue. There was a marker there about where one of the original boundaries was for, I think it was the county. I did not know that. So where are these markers and why did they go missing? It sounds like a mystery
Nancy's
dinner
group.
theater to me. So anyhow, I really do think that we should find out where they are, especially the one on 10th Street, because I think that was there in my lifetime. I remember kind of knowing about Otto and his...
Are those PHMC ones?
Those are PHMC ones, but they just are listed as missing. So anyhow, in my spare time, I'll look for them also.
Might be in a fraternity house or something.
Erie was famous for bicycles, and they had very famous, internationally recognized bicycle tournaments and races in Erie. Bicycles were manufactured in the city of Erie.
They were
lots of
made
them
here, and
were
there,
made here.
Mill Creek had an ordinance against them or
Yeah,
something. I mean,
sure.
there's a whole bicycle, and we have Lake Erie Cycle Fest coming up again in July,
Oh,
so.
yeah, but it was huge. Jeff
Yeah.
Kidder knows a bunch about it.
He has that bicycle
He
collection.
does have a bicycle collection.
So, coming back to center, do we have anything else to discuss as follow-up to Chris's report as the historic preservation planner? Or when we are ready, someone can make a motion to adjourn. Motion made, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you for seconding.
It's a pleasure.
All in favor, please indicate by aye.
Aye.
Excellent. We officially adjourn at 4:53 p.m.
All right. Shortest meeting in a while.
That was a good one. Under now.